Welcome to the show, everyone. I have my first guest, Susie Crawford. She is an ex-Google employee, which I found very intriguing, but her motto that I really draw me to her is the fact that happiness can be a habit, happiness can be routine, and it's our jobs to make sure that we take control of our happiness and do not leave it up to chance. So Susie, the first question I want to start with is, what are some actions that consistently have improved your life?
Well, first off, thank you so much for having me, Justin. I'm super excited and feel very honored to be the first guest. And yeah, just like you said, so happiness to me is a habit, and I think a lot of people don't think of it that way, right? Like happiness is a feeling that we have, it's an emotion, and it's very innate to all of us. We're all born happy, right? Like you see a baby and you think happy or sad. So it is a very innate feeling, but after we go through things in life, whether it's just general day-to-day things, traumas, etc., happiness becomes less of an innate thing and something we have to work towards. So my motto of happiness is a habit is one that I live by every day. And when I think of what are those things that really make it a habit, it's a few things. So one, I think that our thoughts, they drive our feelings, right? We think a thought, whether it's a good thought or bad thought, whatever it is, and that drives our feelings. And what I try my best to do every day is catch my thoughts, be aware of them, and try to think a better thought that will lead to happiness. So a really good example is um, I have a stressful job. I constantly have a lot on my plate, and am trying to get things done and on a schedule. And it's like that now. It was like that definitely before at Google. And I can very quickly catch myself, thinking negative thoughts of like, okay, this is too much. When am I ever going to get this done? How will I get this done? Those thoughts can lead to bad feelings of pessimism, feelings of overwhelm, anxiety, and that's okay. But I also have the choice. I can choose another thought, right? I can get this all done. I will figure this out, etc. So that I would say is like the number one thing of how to kind of build a habit of happiness is catching our thoughts, becoming aware of them, and then choosing a better feeling thought that will lead to a feeling of happiness.
Right. For me, I feel very similar in it all begins with the awareness. If we are not even looking to notice what type of thoughts are occurring in our heads, there's a big area for growth right there. We should always be conscious of the smallest things, and if you're having limiting thoughts like I can't, or the pessimistic outlook, if we just shift that to more of a how will I get this done? What is step number one? When we have big goals, they don't happen immediately. The big goals, they have to be slowly, consistently pursued. And in order to go from 0 to 100, first we go 0 to 10. So just that overall awareness of what am I doing in the moment and how is this affecting me? Is it a positive aspect, or am I sabotaging myself by treating my conscious or the self-image as I can't do this, or I'm not going to be able to get this done? Like those type of thoughts, if we really weigh them cost to benefit ratio, they are completely costing us. They're costing us in our happiness, in our motivation, and motivation is not something to be relied upon. But the thing is, we have to do all of this mental work, something so simple like how we pay attention to how our thoughts are coming out. It seems small, but it's so big. And
For sure.
when I was younger, I wish more of these things clicked, or I had some sort of mentor to guide me. Justin, it matters what you're thinking. It matters how you view yourself. Don't get your value from other people, Justin. Get your value from you and how you're carrying yourself every day. It's mind-blowing how something that simple transpires into a huge piece of our lives and who we become.
Sure. And I love that you brought up the aspect of a mentor. I think that that's something just that's very, has been huge in my life. I've had mentors at work, mentors in school, and they have always, been big guides for me professionally. But what I think is interesting is having, a mentor, like emotionally, right? When we think of how can we establish that earlier in life? Right now, I only recently hired a life coach, which is interesting because I never would have ever considered this. I've had business coaches, but a life coach, I was always like, what is that? Is that a scam? And I recently hired one, and anybody listening, I would like to tell you, it is absolutely not. It was one of the best decisions I ever made. It's For me, I'm constantly, trying to preach happiness, trying to preach like thinking better thoughts, but it's so easy to tell others about it. Now, telling yourself is a completely separate thing. So having someone there to help you catch those thoughts has been huge, and I'd highly recommend it to anyone who's really trying to like level up to their next best self. A life coach to me has been just tremendous.
I love the quote, isolation is the enemy of excellence. And it goes right into that. The life coach is something that, yeah, with the emotional aspect of life, it's overlooked. And there's business coaches, there's the gym coach, there's coaches for a lot. And we seem to look at it just like you said, it's a scam. Why would I ever pay a life coach? But it's one of the biggest things is to have someone else accountable with you, because we're not superhumans. We know the aim is perfection, but we have to accept that that is unattainable. We can be our best. We should look to be our best. And when you make errors or mistakes, that's why having someone, whether it's the person who checks you and says, why are you getting so ahead of yourself? Why are you being cocky right here? Or the coach that notices you're having negative thoughts and you might be falling into a rut. Hey, what we're talking about is not just for listeners, because we lead by example. It's how we carry ourselves, and having these conversations is so beneficial because it reminds me and you what we're trying to live by. And like you said, it's very easy to have negative thoughts. It's easier to have those limiting beliefs than it is to build your self-image and to understand all the amazing things that we built come from those moments of doubt and the moments of putting yourself out there, being afraid. It's beautiful how having the right support system can build you in such a way that you become someone who you never even imagined could transpire from who you are.
Yes, absolutely.
How did you reach the conclusion that happiness is a habit?
How did I reach it? That's a great question. I think that kind of goes back to like what got me into all of this like mental training before. So just a quick like background on me. So I'm a mother of three, and when I had my first, having a baby throws anybody through a loop, right? But for me, it was just a huge change, and postpartum depression is something that is very real and just not talked about enough. But you have a child, you are one identity one day, and then it's completely flipped the next, and you're now taking care of this tiny human's life, and it's hard. You don't get sleep. It's exhausting. And while it's obviously beautiful and you love the baby more than anything, your life has just completely changed. So for me, it was really hard. those first few months of being a mom. And I was so used to being like the peppy one, the upbeat one, the positive one. And out of nowhere, like that was no longer my identity. I was struggling really, really hard. And a lot of people would come to me and say, like, you should try meditation. You should, sit down and meditate. I'd tried it before, but I always saw myself as, better than that. And I hate saying that now because meditation is a part of my every single day, multiple times a day. But at the time I was like, I am not a, Buddha. Like, I don't need to meditate. I am, in the tech world. I am fast paced. I like work until 11 p.m., which is like disgusting now that I hear that, but that was my identity back then. And hearing so many people say I should, and then seeing like people at work at Google that I looked up to, like walking into the meditation rooms at Google, doing this. And I was like, okay, maybe this is something I should look into. These are people that I admire, that are successful, and they do it every day, and it's a habit for them. I need to figure this out because one, I needed to be a better version of myself. I didn't like who I was becoming, and I needed to do something. So I would try it, right? I would sit there and I would try to meditate, and I still could not figure it out. So I started studying it, and I would look into like the science behind meditation. Like, why does it work? Why do people become happier from this? And I learned a lot. I learned about like brain waves, what happens when you meditate, how your brain waves go from one state to another. That helped, but I still couldn't do it. I could not sit there in silence. My mind would be racing. So I actually looked into a certain type of meditation. It's called binaural beats.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah, keep going. Yes. Yep.
Love it. Okay. So I started studying that brainwave entrainment, tricking your mind essentially to getting to a certain brainwave. That was a game changer for me. That is now, even today, years later, that is how I meditate. And that's how I tell people when I talk to people that are like me, high performers, mind always racing, have this like certain identity that doesn't necessarily fit with the stereotypical meditation identity. That's what I have seen a lot of success in, is using binaural beats was amazing for me. I would put headphones on, and 2 minutes in, I would be like very calm. I was like just in a Zen state. And I didn't get that before with meditation. So that was step one. Okay, so how can I make meditation a habit? And then from there, I realized, okay, I'm getting to this calmer state. Now let's get happier. Like, I have an amazing life. I have an amazing, at the time, 1 baby, now 3. Like, I need to start acknowledging all of this. So I started incorporating a lot of other things into my daily routine. Journaling, affirmations. Like, I use the term brainwashing a lot, like brainwashing myself into happiness. Brainwashing, like the way most people, and you and I think of it, is it's a negative, right? Like, people are brainwashed, they're a part of a cult, etc. But really all brainwashing is saying something repetitively over and over so that you begin to believe it. And that's what I did to myself. Like, I am happy. I am so happy. I would picture myself like just being confident and happy and successful, and brainwashing myself to happiness and confidence. And I incorporated, a lot of those techniques, like self-talk, journaling words over and over, like, you have the best life. You're so confident. You're so successful. And meditating. All of those put together changed my life.
Right. It's beautiful how we can't leave out the multiple aspects. There's journaling, there's meditation, there's exercise, there's habits and routines. And when you put a bunch of things together, that's when it really comes. So we don't push, okay, go meditate, but don't have a job, don't exercise. If you just meditate and only rely on that, the binaural beats, you're not going to see nearly the results.
Right.
But I said, oh my gosh, when you mentioned the binaural beats, because I did the same thing, journey very similar, mind always racing, looking to be a high performer, but I could never turn it off. And I tried meditation, guided meditations, all sorts of different methods, but the one that just clicked the most is the binaural beats. I just sit crisscross on the mat, have the headphones in, and I don't know the science behind it like you do, but all I can tell you is the proof. I feel so much better every time I sit there 15 minutes just eyes closed, and it in a way, number one, it clears your mind, and number two, it's not that when meditation occurs, there's no thoughts going on. It's just that it allows us to listen and get more depth with our thoughts. So it's such a powerful tool. And how you brought up the identity and being caught in, oh, meditation, that's for tree huggers. That's not for me. I am not that type of person. I had the same beliefs. And that's part of my purpose is I've seen from 16 years old to 23 how I am now. I'm doing so many things that I never thought I would do. Reading, journaling, waking up at 4:30, not for work, but for myself. So I can meditate, so I can get to the gym. Like, I never thought that these small, but huge pieces of a habit and routine and a structure would make me feel so much better about myself. And the most evident part is when I don't meditate or read or wake up with my structured routine. Everything, my brain seems to be so scrambled. And it's not like meditating brings me $1 million from the sky. No, but meditating brings my thoughts to a clear, precise way of thinking so that I am not all over the place, because especially in the society or the day and age of technology, the phones are such a distraction, and they're so amazing at the same time. I like to say this. We are living like kings of 100 years ago. The average citizen has so much more available at their hands than a king would have. So with all of that power or information comes responsibility. I think it's so important for us to filter information because it's coming at us from so many different directions. The ability to just get precise with what we're trying to do and to work in a manner. I love working 25 minutes on and then 5 minutes off. There's just so many little, and I know there's a scientific name for that. I didn't create that, but I've just from listening to people over time, you learn, oh, if Susie meditates, oh, if the people Susie look up to meditates, if all the podcasters that I listen to meditate, maybe there's something there, and maybe I don't know everything.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. And I don't know how, but I'm definitely on a mission to kind of bring these techniques to people like me. Like I've joined a lot of groups around like mindfulness and, you know, how can we train our mind to help us become better versions of ourselves. And the one thing that has been a bit hard for me is that a lot of these groups I just don't identify with. And I wish I did, right? Like a lot of these people in these groups that are so passionate about it are, you know, yogis or Reiki healers or acupuncturists, which is amazing because I love all of, you know, what they do, but they don't, my identity is so different. So I want to kind of bring all of this like meditation, manifestation, etc., to the tech world, and to make it very normal and a part of everyday, like their people's everyday lives.
Right, and the industry it's enticing. What I mean is, if you're an athlete, if you're a tech person like you are, if you're whatever industry you're in, our point is that from the outside you might be ruffled by trying meditation. You have preconceived ideas and judgments of reading or journaling or meditating, and that's exactly how we were. But it's interesting because I don't think going into a meditation group is something that I would go after, but simply doing it on my own, it's not hard. I pull up a video, and the benefits from, number one, at least getting into a group like Dan Coe, just from the past week, I have learned so much from that man, and I saw that
amazing,
he is, and it's so beautiful how one individual can affect so many people's lives. It can't be overlooked. Like the purpose that you have, maybe it's not completely defined specifically, but as long as we're aiming to help other people with something that has helped us, I love the idea of just leading by example. If it's helped me, I almost feel inclined to share it.
Yeah, totally.
The worst period of your life, and you did bring it into the conversation a little bit, and what has changed from that worst period to now?
Yeah, so it would definitely be that. It's, the whole postpartum phase. And I would love to just make this point and stress that, like, just because I got over that doesn't mean it doesn't come back, right? I have 3 kids, and this has been the case after everyone. Like, postpartum is real. It is hard. And honestly, only recently I hit another phase where it was so hard. Raising kids is tough. Kids are their own human beings. They have their own minds, and they go through different phases in life, and toddlers are like, they can be kind of terrible sometimes, and they like throw their tantrums, and our job as their parents and is just to, I see it as, is just to make them good humans, right? Like, to teach them good things, make them good humans, and allow them to become individuals that make good decisions in their own decisions. So it's not my job to control them. And that can be really hard sometimes, right? Because when a toddler is going through a tantrum, they're just going through something so normal. Like, if you ever met a toddler and their mom was like, this toddler never throws a tantrum, you'd be like, okay, you're lying, and you'd walk away because it's so normal. But it can also be so hard when you're like in the grocery store and you're just like, oh my goodness. So my whole point around that is, just because you get over one hump of like, okay, now I meditate every day, am I happy all the time? No, of course you're not. You still have hard thoughts, and that's just a part of life. Our entire life is based on polarities, good and bad, happy, sad. And without the sad, you wouldn't know what happy is, right? If you were always happy, then you would never appreciate, if you were always happy and never sad, you would never appreciate happiness. So polarities is normal. Again, it's about recognizing it and acknowledging it, and then working on a better thought. So a good example is recently, my daughter, she's 2, she's almost 3. Again, a tough age, but a beautiful age. And my life coach, actually, I should probably tell him this, Sheshin94, he also went through Dan Coe's program, but he has been helping me a lot with, business and my thoughts on creating a business, etc. But I use a lot of the things that he teaches in parenting. And the example I want to give is one from recently. So my daughter, again, 2, was just going through a hard time. Her younger sister's 1 and getting a lot of attention, and kids need a lot of individual attention. And I wasn't giving her enough because I have 3 kids. And while I have an amazing husband who's very involved, it's still hard. We're outnumbered. She was having a hard day, and I was not being my best self, and it was frustrating. And I would say that was probably a low, because I could see her struggling. I could see it. And I just had all these kids. Everyone was crying. And I was like, I have so much going on with family, work, etc. And I just wanted to scream. And I just walked away. I went into the room. My husband stayed with them. And something that I don't know that I would have done 6 months ago, right? I didn't have a coach who was helping me through moments. Is I thought of this mental model that he's helped me with. And I thought of, what is the circumstance, my thought, my feelings, and what do I intend to get out of all of this? Just that, like thinking through it, has made me a much better parent. It is phenomenal how I have seen myself just change. And this is honestly with just like a few weeks of coaching. And I think that was a very long-winded answer to your question, but yeah, so a low, I think parenting can bring you to your deepest lows, truly. But if you have the right tools, and it doesn't have to be parenting tools, I'm using business tools in my own parenting. If you have the right tools, you can see the transformations in yourself, and I'm seeing them every day.
It's about thinking through the process.
Yeah.
And I love the point that when you meditate, you're not happy every day. It's a work in progress. We're never going to be happy every day. And I also really relate to, if you don't know what bad is, how can you appreciate the goodness? Like,
Yeah.
I live in Connecticut, and it's just about done with winter. But I'm talking with some of my neighbors when I walk my dog, and I'm like, this winter, it makes me appreciate the nice days, and you don't nearly understand how grateful or blessed you are until you go through a rut or go through hard times. And
Yeah.
being a parent, oh my gosh, I know that it's like a balance in life is something that I keep very close to me, having a well-rounded routine and structure. And how you have to balance your attention between the three children is very, I can't even imagine how challenging that is. Like you said, you're outnumbered. Even if your husband is spectacular, you're still outnumbered. So
Yeah.
that is very a challenge. But as long as you take it in that right mindset where you realize, I feel horrible right now, I need to go think through these thoughts. That's the step. That is beautiful right there, is taking yourself out of the situation so you can rethink and recalibrate how you want to come back to the situation. That's just a helpful piece for anyone in any environment,
Yeah.
whether you're being bullied and you try your best to defuse the situation without urging the bullies to do much more. Or in business, there are just ways that when we are able to think through unfortunate or challenging situations, take a step back. That's what meditation is all about, is being able to work through our thoughts and rewire our brain in a way where when something bad occurs, we just notice almost immediately that our thoughts are being, what's the word? Our thoughts are being sabotaged, I guess. And
Yeah.
it's our job to, it all comes down to awareness, noticing. And once you notice, you can take the time to figure out what needs to occur to fix the situation. And we're never going to be perfect. And that's what we have to accept. No matter how good your routines and structure and everything is, you're still going to have negative emotions and hard feelings. But the quicker that we can get out or take a step back from those hard moments, that's the key right there.
Yeah. Exactly. I love it. You put it beautifully.
Thank you. And one more thing, not trying to control everything, and more so trying to be one who guides the situation or
Yes, I
leads by
love that.
example, right?
Yes.
Like,
Absolutely.
controlling doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Because you
Does
try
it
to
as much
control,
as we want it to work. Yeah.
when
It
we
doesn't.
try to control, especially a younger child who, like you said, they are going to have tantrums. Don't fall for that idea that someone's child is perfect and has no tantrums. That is not normal. I like the human evolution. Just we live in 2022, but there are so many common things that people need attention. If someone's not getting attention, they're going to become devalued, and from that lack of attention, the emotions transpire in so many negative ways.
I agree. Yes. I wanted to go back to the controlling piece. So one of the things that, again, I feel like I'm just promoting this guy, but my life coach, was mentioning that I find very interesting and honestly applies to anything is when you think of the result you want, don't try to control the result and like have a specific one in mind, but think of the intention behind the result. So this can be in any situation. Kids, the intention is not to get a child to act a certain way. The intention is to get them to a happier spot. How can I just help them? The intent is to help, to add like comfort to them, right? When you think of business, if you have a business goal, is the intended, like, what is the intention? Is the intention to grow your podcast, to serve people in a better way? So when you think of intention, you kind of get away from trying to control it, and you think more of what are you trying to bring to the world?
That's I'm speechless. That is really a amazing way to explain how we carry ourselves. If
Yeah.
I love leading by example, and if you intend to create a kinder, more supportive environment, what's the first thing we have to do? It's look inwards. If you want a good, strong, healthy family, you have to be that foundation or cornerstone. It's not just going to fall from a tree. So
Right.
this is what I mean with how I was so drawn to your motto of making happiness a habit. All these small things, our intentions is what matters. The process is more important than the outcome. Sometimes not sometimes, all the time, we want instant gratification. Things to happen like boom, instant. And
Oh yeah.
that's not the way for us to build something that will actually impact others and serve others in a way that can completely change who they are and their route for life. It starts with what we intend to do, and are we leading by example? People really don't look inwards enough. That is something that I really need to share with people more is, are you really that perfect? Are you really sure that you're doing nothing wrong? I don't know. Because I caught myself in that for years and years thinking, oh, I'm doing everything correctly. I couldn't do anything better. And once I got critical on each moment, how I spend, even how I think, my thoughts, that's when real growth occurs, once we look inwards.
Yeah. Very
Um,
well said.
do you have anything else, or should we go next question?
Next question. Bring it.
Okay. Tiny but huge overlooked methods of enjoying life more.
Tiny but huge overlooked methods. Ooh, that's a good one. Um, so I feel like I'm turning this into a parenting podcast, and that is definitely not the intent.
No,
Yeah.
I stand for that. I really do. I really do.
So one of the things I've noticed, once I became a parent is like I feel like I before had to like indulge my life in with things that would bring me they do bring me happiness. But I learned from my kids that even the tiniest things, if you really, you know, learn how to appreciate them, can bring so much more happiness. So here's a great example. Before, we'd always be like, okay, what are the trips we're taking every year? What's that big international trip? Let's make sure our weekends are jam packed with events, etc., which is great. And we still love to travel and do all these things. But it kind of made me take a step back and realize, like, was I just not enjoying the little things too in life, like going out for walks, taking a hike, like going to the beach, all these, free things that we have in our world that are just a step away. So with kids, I mean, you grow, or sorry, they help you grow to realize that, like, there's so much we should appreciate that we don't. I mean, our kids, here's a great example actually. It was my son's birthday. I think it was his birthday or Christmas. I don't know, but we were like, "What do you want for your birthday?" And he was like, "I just really want pen and paper." He loves to draw. And I was
Aw.
like, "Pen and paper?" I was like, "Buddy, if you need pen and paper, I'll get you pen and paper." But like, it was something so simple. And I was just like, wow. Or like today when it was breakfast, I was like, oh, I want to take them to Legoland this weekend. I was like, but let me see what they want to do. I was like, what are you guys going to do, after school? And they're like, can we just go on a walk out? There's this area by our house. It's like a little hike. And I was like, yes, like just very simple things like climbing on trees, playing with rocks, like playing in dirt and puddles that we see as gross, like are so appreciated by these tiny humans. And it's because they haven't been like inundated with media and like
Expectations.
expectations. Exactly. And of course they enjoy going to Disneyland and Legoland, all the other beautiful stuff, but they also enjoy going outside and playing with rocks because that can still be so fun. So that is a tiny thing that I urge everybody to just take a weekend to not do things that you currently like would list as this is what brings me joy, and try something so simple. Like act like a toddler for a weekend and you'll learn to appreciate like the freaking leaves on the tree that they use to build their own little bird's nest, or you know what I mean? So
Yeah, absolutely. So I can relate. I'm not a parent, but I have two golden retrievers, and having these animals that they just make me appreciate the smallest things. I notice how happy they get when I walk them. It's
yeah,
it's there's so much power in nature. Number one, I'm not a tree hugger, but a lot of the things you talked about, the beach, the trees, the leaves, the hikes, those things are overlooked. And
for sure.
I wish more people understood how much happiness doing that could bring you. Um,
Yeah,
we're closing in on 45 minutes. I have one final. I
go
really
for it.
enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this. The number one most important piece of knowledge that would have helped the younger you.
Oh my gosh. So that's so funny you asked because I didn't realize you were 23. Now, when you said that, I was like, oh my goodness. Like, if I had known any of this stuff in my earlier years, I feel like I would be like 100x who I am now. So I think, I don't know that it's one piece of knowledge, but just like focusing on mindset earlier on, I wish I would, that's something I really wish I would have done. Like, understanding meditation, trying binaural beats, affirmations, journaling, all those things, like those for me have been game changers. They have truly brought me success. They've brought me monetary success. They've brought me like personal success, happiness, etc. All these things have made me just a better person. I see abundance in my life, just and anything positive, all of that's brought me. I beyond wish I would have had these tools in my early 20s. Like,
It's not an
yeah.
overnight change, right? It's just
No,
something.
not at all.
Compounding is the seventh wonder of the world for a reason. When we do journaling, reading, meditation, and appreciation of nature, those type of things, it's just, I don't want to say I was miserable the past few years, but how much better I feel each day after implementing the habits that you just mentioned. It's crazy. It really is how these small things add up to be such a substantial impact on who we are, how we see ourselves, how fulfilled we feel and the route that we're going. When you get clear on your thoughts by meditating, reading, and doing that, it allows us to put plans in place at a rate that prior to doing that was just not even conceived, not even thought of. But Susie, thank you so much. This was a blast.
Yeah, thank you so much, Justin. This was great. I loved talking to you.
Yeah, conversation always makes me feel good. Prior to getting on the call, I did meditation because I wouldn't say I was nervous, but when you speak to someone brand new for the first time, it's, a little nerve-wracking.
For sure. Yeah,
and
that's normal.
every time I finish having a conversation, I remind myself how good it makes me feel. It's wonderful. If you're interested in coaching, reach out. I'm willing to do an hour to 2 hours and we can look through any issues in your life. I will never be able to change your life, but I can show you the principles so you change your own life.